Now, next this morning, the UK has lowered its coronavirus alert level from 4 to 3. The new level means the epidemic is in general circulation and allows social distancing to be relaxed. So now we're at the next stage. What does that mean? And is it safe reducing from 2 metres to distancing to 1? Well, let's catch up with Dr. Duncan Robertson from Loughborough University's School of Business and Economics. Duncan, hi.
Good morning, Ben.
So we've been at this nearly 4 months now, for heaven's sake. Look, where are we then? Tell me the science between this alert level going from 4 to 3.
Well, what's been happening is that obviously at the beginning of the epidemic, we were counting cases, and there was this scientific committee called SAGE that was set up, and that was really looking at the incidence of how many cases were there. And then a couple of months ago, we went to this mechanism called the Joint Biosecurity Centre, which is there to basically monitor how the epidemic is spreading around the country. And these 4 levels of alert were set up, and we have been at this level 4, which is very much about social distancing and restrictions. And now, as of about a week ago, we moved down to level 3. So this really the mechanism is meant to say that we can start reducing these restrictions. But of course, we have already been doing this several weeks ago. So we're a bit late we've been releasing lockdown, I think, earlier than was originally planned. But now we have been down to this level 3. So as you say, the epidemic's not over. And I think we're moving more to expecting sort of outbreaks across the entire country, to fairly localised outbreaks coming in the future.
Look, and we sort of can't talk about that without talking about the sort of continuing discussions about the how far the social distancing should be. So, as we know, 2 metres in this country, it's 1.5 in others, one in some others. Where does the science lie with that at the moment?
Well, if you look at the sort of chief medical officer and the chief scientific advisor, they are, I think, saying that we recognise that the distance can be reduced. But if you look at what they're saying, they're also saying that's if you have this test and trace facility up and running and working properly. And, for example, if you have other mitigation measures, for example, if people are wearing masks, then, you can expect to reduce that level. I think the problem comes when you sort of try and do too much at the same time. So, there's discussions about opening pubs. Pubs outside is probably okay, but once you sort of go indoors, you don't get ventilation. It's quite difficult to drink a pint when you've got a mask on. So, the problem is that you can't take some mitigation measures in certain areas. So, and the other thing is, of course, this test and trace. That's been kind of central. So if you look at other countries, for example, South Korea and Singapore, it's all about this testing and tracing. And this tracing is very sophisticated over there. And I think the problem here is we have this mechanism set up, and we're sort of missing about a third of the contacts of people, or a third of people won't, give their information or haven't been tracked. So the problem is, what happens if a local outbreak takes place? Will we be able to sort of get that under control very quickly? And just, it's interesting, these outbreaks can happen very quickly. So you mentioned about this R number. So in Germany, they've got very low levels of infections, but the R level over the weekend went up from 1 to 1.8 to now 2.8. But it sounds terrible, and, it is, but that's only because they've got a very low number of infections. So if you think there might be an outbreak in, for example, a meat processing plant, and then, it spreads right across that lot, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's across the whole country. Okay. So I think, it's kind of these localised outbreaks that I think we're going to see, and hopefully we'll be able to control.
And look, just Duncan, just very briefly, where are we with the therapeutics? We know that there was a lot made of that last week, and obviously Leicester played its part in that. Where are we with that?
Well, I think, there's this trial of therapeutics. So therapeutics are sort of, pharmaceutical drugs you can give to people if to either prevent or to treat people when they're sick. And some good news, there's dexamethasone, which is a cheap drug, is available to give to people. But, it's not really it's good news, but it's only good news if you're very sick. So the good thing is that if you are very sick and on a ventilator or on oxygen, if you can be given this, and your chances of of dying are decreased, which is a good thing. But it's not a sort of magic bullet. It doesn't really allow, it's not preventative. It's if you get it, you won't get as sick.
Duncan, thank you so much as ever for helping us get to the bottom of all the science. We'll talk again next week.
Perfect. See you then.
Thanks ever so much, Duncan. Thank you.
Bye.
There you are, Dr. Duncan Robertson from Loughborough University School of Business and Economics joining us here on BBC Radio Leicester.